Hello, readers. It's Miss Robbins bringing you your last lesson in literary language. See, I put a little idiom on the front there. Hang in there. That's not really what I'm saying, right? I'm saying stay with me. We've spent some time talking about the special language many authors use to help paint pictures in our minds. We learned to notice special language in a book by thinking about the writer's craft and the special meaning of the author wants them to get from the language. Things that we looked at were comparisons, alliterations, time passing words, repetition, and idioms. Today, I want to teach you that you can think about all the strategies you use when you write books and poems and notice when an author is using them in your books. When you notice what the author is doing, you can try to name it and think, what special meaning does the author want me to get? So before we spend time thinking about this in our own books, I would like to review all the literary language that we have been learning about. So in this story, you can see the use of comparison to help bring the story to life. It says, my aunt is asleep, so I tiptoe into the kitchen. My heart is thumping in a way it does when my teacher calls on me, even though I haven't raised my hand. Oh, what that feels like. I dial the first part of Coach Marco's phone number and hang up, shaky. So, giving a comparison to how the character felt with her heart thumping, like when the teacher calls on them when they're not prepared, that really gives me a picture in my head about how this person is feeling. So that's an interesting use of the comparison in literary language. Now let's talk a little bit about alliteration. Whenever I see alliteration, I think this is a fun one. It kind of reminds me of Dr. Seuss, although I know there are many other authors that use this. So an example you can see here is that the trees swayed shyly in the summer breeze. It's the repetition of a consonant or sound at the beginning of two or more words in a line of poetry. And here's an example from Dr. Seuss. Big D, little d. David Donald Do dreamed a dozen donuts and a duck dog too. Now that is a big one. Sometimes authors don't use so many words, but that have the same consonant or beginning sound. But that is a really good example of one. Oh, so now time passing. The Snowy Day, I'm sure you all remember that book. It's one of my favorites. It's a great example of time passing words. So before he got into bed, he looked in his pocket. His pocket was empty. The snowball wasn't there. I remember this part. He felt very sad. While he slept, he dreamed that the sun had melted all the snow away. But when he woke up, his dream was gone. The snow was still everywhere. New snow was falling. So, do you notice that while he slept, he dreamed? But then when he woke up, his dream was gone. So, using the passing words, we could understand how the character moved through the night into the morning. He started out a little concerned and kind of dreamt and worried about snow melting, but then found there was more. In this story, I pulled out just a few lines. There are more in between these three sentences, but I want to look at just these three parts. I hope that you can figure out why. We pressed our faces against the hall window and left cold lips on the pane. And then things happened. And then we woke up early and had hot cocoa from the deli across the street. I made more lips on the deli window and watched the movers on the leaving morning. Later, so I left lips on the front window of our apartment and said goodbye to our old place on the leaving morning. So this was about somebody moving and writing about how they were feeling. And the thing that I wanted you to notice is the author using literary language to share something that is important. I can tell that she wants us to really pay attention to the character pressing her lips on the window. And I know this because she mentions it several times in a short amount of time. Um, so it makes me go, that's something I need to pay attention to. She wants us to understand something there. Oh, lastly, the idiom, one of my favorites. Those of you who read Amelia Bedelia, I know a few people that do, you have a lot of experience with idioms. She lives idioms. She cracks me up. But in this picture, the idiom is hit the road. When people say that they don't really mean to actually go out and hit the road like this boy is doing, right? They mean, let's get going. Like, let's get out of here. We're going to go somewhere. Hit the road. An idiom is a group of words that have a different meaning from their literal meaning. Because if you took hit the road, you would go out and hit the road, right? I did notice a few idioms when I was reading the first chapter of Stink. I don't know if any of you caught them. There was, you were acting like a kid in the candy store, even though he actually was in a candy store. That is an idiom people say. Um, you got up on the wrong side of the bed. You're rotten to the core. And there were a few more. I wonder if you guys can find them. Okay. So, to understand literary language, let's pay attention to the special language. Notice when words are used in special ways. Reread that part. Remember what's going on in the story. Think, what special meaning does the author want me to get? And when two things are compared, think about how they're alike. Figure out what playful language really means. And remember, books are filled with special literary language, and it's important to think about why the author put it in there and how it helps you to understand the story that you're reading. I think that's the most important part is that they use a lot of interesting language when authors are writing, and it's always for a reason. Like they want you to remember something, they want you to make a connection. So just try to pay attention to those places where there's some playful language and see if you can figure out what's going on. Okay, readers, your job today is see if you can find any special literary language in your books. If you find one, share it with an adult. If you can't find an example of literary language in your book, don't worry at all. You can't always find them, and that's okay. Just be aware that they exist, and when you're reading other books, it's a fun way to be a word detective. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you soon. Bye.